All right, welcome back. Jim, you and I are here celebrating the 12 days of Christmas and all the gifts that we see people being given inside of organizations. Good gifts, bad gifts, all kinds, right? This is a time of year where there's a lot of college students graduating. Right? They're leaving university. You finished in mid cycle, right? That's what I did. I graduated in the winter of 2003. And then I had to go get a job, right? And so there's a lot of people that will try to have a job set up and they're maybe going to start their first new job, or maybe they're still early in their career and they're trying to figure things out. And so if, as a gift to one of these first time job holders, one of these new hires type people, what would be a piece of advice, top piece of advice you have for a new hire, a fresh job entry person?
Wow, this is very relatable to me because next week I'm going to Blacksburg, Virginia to watch my nephew graduate off cycle in the winter from Virginia Tech. And I couldn't be more proud of him. He's going to be a civil engineer. He's already got multiple jobs lined up, and I think he might have selected one. So I've kind of been thinking about this topic, like what would my advice be? The funny thing is my nephew is not a normal kid. I know probably everybody says it, but like he's looking forward to some of the very things you and I are probably going to talk about on things we hope we never have to deal with again. Like he's looking forward to sitting in a cubicle and driving into the office every day and dealing with that coworker who makes broccoli in the microwave. So I think one of the pieces of advice I'm going to give him is there's a time to earn and there's a time to learn. And right now he is in the time to learn. So I want to help him and just give him some advice on like what it means to be a good teammate, be a better employee, to set yourself up for maybe less cynicism, less frustration, less stress than I had. And the other thing I'm doing for him, and he won't listen to this at all, or definitely not before graduation, is I'm getting him some good tools for his job. So he's a civil engineer. So he's going to be working like on job sites and in a mixture of like at a desk and in the field, like on a construction site, wearing a hard hat and dealing with cement crews and building crews and all this. And one of the things that a good friend of mine who's in the trade said is it's kind of a sad reality is when you're earlier in your career, when you're just starting out, you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of options, and you're just grateful to have a job, is when you really need good things early because you don't have the money to buy 5 pairs of work boots. And like my friend, he goes through work boots constantly because he's wearing them 10, 12 hours a day. And, they're very hardened tools. So people tend to buy cheap things and those cheap things don't last. They're also not as good. So I told my nephew, and here's where I'm going with this, is I told him a few months ago when we were hanging out, please, he's lucky. He has means. Invest in good tools. Invest in the type of tools that will last you a huge portion of your career, if not forever. And mind your knees, your back, your eyes, and your ears. Because taking it from a 48-year-old, dude, those are the things that you can't replace easily without a lot of money and pain. And, kids, like it's hard to give a 20-something advice like that because they feel invincible. He's a marathon runner. He's a cross-country runner. So in one respect, he understands the effect on your joints. But I'm also just telling him, I don't want to see you in your 40s struggling with no hearing or lung problems or bad knees. What do you think? I know you've got a son coming of age and getting ready, not quite at that college graduation level, but what type of advice would you have to somebody like this?
My favorite advice to give to new hires and people earlier in the career is believe in the power of compound interest. And so I always suggest to people that, they've not had a job before quite like what they're doing, right? They're now hopefully doing work that's in their field. related to their degree, whatever that might be. They've now, maybe they had a first job and they've figured out what that second one needs to be. They've made that next jump. Maybe they got a pay boost out of that. But I remember like my first job, my first real job, not hourly, but my first salary job in my field. And I now had more money than I knew what to do with. And I wasn't getting paid a lot, but I had way more money than I ever had before. It's really easy to do lots of things with that have no real value for you. It might be fun in the moment. And that's okay. Still go out, have fun, go to the bar, get a nice dinner, take a, someone you like out on a date. I don't know, get some nice clothes, buy great tools. That's a great investment thing there too. But you're about to get this chunk of money. Hopefully it does not exactly cover your bills, because your bills will change and then you're going to be stuck. But if you now have all this money, right, you're paying your bills, you're able to eat and you're good to go there, set aside 10 to 15%. And if you really think you could just swing it, 20% of your income before you ever see a paycheck, put in a retirement account, because that thing will grow like crazy, right? You don't even have to do much to it. I mean, lots of people that can help you manage it, but if you don't see it, you don't think about spending it. And then later you look at that and you go, wow, I saved a lot. This grew a lot. And that's going to be key for later on in your career. Because if you're our age and you're like, hey, I want to retire in, 20 years, maybe 10 years. I don't know. Maybe you want to retire early. And you're like, maybe I should start saving for retirement. It's too late.
Right.
Right. So start doing it before you even know what to do with that money. Put it aside, get it out of the way, and then treat the rest of it like your actual income.
Well, that is an area I don't worry about my nephew on. He's very diligent about things like that. It's something I not purposely, failed at. So shout out to my dad. My pops was so smart when he told me exactly what you're doing. At the time, one of my first, not my first, but one of my first kind of like real jobs was working at Walmart. And back then in the mid 90s, Walmart had a deal that an employee could buy stock at a 1-to-1 ratio. And when you would go to the restroom or the break room that the public could go to as well, down this little hallway, it would have the day's share price. And I'll never forget, it was like $14.70 at some point, which meant if I spent $15, I'd buy a share of stock and the company would buy me a share of stock. And my dad said, are you kidding? Like you need to do that. You need to buy at least a few every single time. I'm a 16-year-old kid. Like I want to get out, go to a party in a cornfield, and that money's going to buy something to drink or put gas in the tank so I can drive around and listen to the new Naughty by Nature CD for an extra 20 minutes or something. But my God, I wish I had listened to not just my dad, but my grandfathers and the other people around me, because I made every stupid mistake. And compounding interest is a real thing. Yeah, I could not agree more. I mean, there's a reason that I think every generation gets annoyed at the older generation telling them how it is and all the mistakes we want to, because we learn the hard way, often by not following the very same advice that was given to us.
Yeah, I remember being a kid, maybe my son's age, right? So he's still in middle school, and Microsoft was kind of a new company. And I told my parents to buy their stock. And they're like, "Ugh." And sure enough, it went up a lot, when we didn't have any. I'm like, okay. And I think my mom remembered that story. So for my 16th birthday, I got like, I don't know, $200 worth of Microsoft stock. Right? That was my gift. And I'm like, awesome. I was so excited. And it split and it grew and it split again and it grew. And I later turned that stock into a car. But yeah, I think like you're saying, you're working and you see that opportunity, especially if your company's doing some kind of match. That's awesome. That 1-to-1 match on buying stock is so cool. A lot of companies will do 3%, 4%, maybe you'll be lucky to get like a 6% match on any investment on your stock. That's above anything you put in, right? So you can max it all out. You can put in whatever the IRS in the US, right, says. And if you're in a different country, I don't know what your retirement plans look like, your pensions, whatever. Just think about investing in them. And for a lot of countries, I've seen that's just part of it. Like it's automatic. You don't have a choice because it's a smart decision, right? So if you have to make that decision, make it so that you don't even think about it. Just do it right off the bat before you ever see any of that money and be like, oh, now I'm not getting as much.
Yeah.
Right? Just don't get it from the beginning.
Well, I will say I work for Walmart 3 or 4 different times in 2 different states. And one time a few years ago, after telling someone this very same story about how I wish I listened to my dad on this, I typed in what would I have today if I had bought 500 shares, which is reasonably what an 18, 19-year-old kid could have bought, over the period that I was working there. Like, what would that be worth today? And I would not be sitting here talking to you because I wouldn't be working at all. Like, it's a very demoralizing number when you see and the point my dad made, which I have made many, many times to other people since then, is the amount of money that it would take to have done that, you won't even notice it's gone. And another phrase that my dad has beat into me over the years in a loving way is, if your employer is ever going to give you something like that for free, whether it's a 3%, 7%, buy stock this, take it. You are stupid if you don't take it. If they're going to give you some sort of money or retirement for free, take it. And I was dumb. I was lazy many times throughout my career, where it's like, well, yeah, but then I got to fill out this paperwork and I got to go to this stupid internet site and download this form. And he's like, do it. But I was lazy. I thought I knew better. I was like, I'm not going to stay here that long. Well, before you know it, you've been there 2 years or 7 years. And if you had done it at the beginning, you would be in a very different position.
Well, I won't let you beat yourself up too much more here, Jim. But I think we really ended up, with 3, I would say, probably good little tips here. Your nephew, he wants to be in the moment. And I think you called out like go have the experience, go learn, right? Go learn what it takes to be a good coworker, right? Go experience your company and figure it out. Get involved as early as you can. Get the things that you need to do your job well. Not only will that make your job easier, but it'll also save you money and time as you go along, right? You have a good tool that makes the job work better. It is worth its weight in gold. And speaking of gold, that's potential investment there, but right, start saving now for the thing that feels so far off in the future. How would you ever know it happened? Don't do it so much that it completely impedes and changes your lifestyle, but start putting away something, because it will grow and you'll be happy later on when you've got it there.
Two short phrases could sum up all of your advice and I think the suggestions I made. One is, I told my nephew a couple months ago when we were hanging out, working is a marathon. It is not a sprint. So make sure you're making decisions that a future version of you would want to make. I think a lot of people are like, I just need to do this. I just need to get it is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And anytime you can invest, so kind of the second piece is, anytime you can invest in making yourself more resilient, smarter, stronger, more capable, etc., is investments in yourself always have positive ROI. And that could be as simple as good boots, long tools. It could be letting yourself be made fun of a little bit for wearing ear protection or a respirator when you're supposed to, or making sure you have good insoles in your shoes so that if you're standing on your feet on concrete for 12 hours, that you can still do that 20 years from now, or you can still go on vacation, because you and I travel a lot, and there's nothing sadder to me when I meet somebody who's traveling and they're like, yeah, I never got to do this. I was always working, and they can't enjoy it many times because they got a bad back or bad knees. And, you can't avoid all that, but there are often things you can do along the way to at least decrease the likelihood of future pain, at least for a while. So awesome. Great time of year to kind of reflect and think back. A lot of advice and things given around this time of year. I think we were talking earlier about those New Year's questions, not resolutions.
Exactly. So good luck, everyone. We hope you have a great first experience. We hope you go and listen in further for more. Thanks for listening to the Mastering Agility 12 Days of Christmas series. We hope you enjoyed our holiday musings, and we wish you happiness, relaxation, and reflection as this year comes to a close. Tune in next year for more insightful interviews and conversations to keep you curious on your journey to mastering agility.